there was one. That was one. Well, I guess we can wait for Jake.
This isn't like a homework assignment. I don't gotta write. I don't gotta give you
Yeah,
a report.
there's an essay question.
Oh, okay.
What'd I miss?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nobody's on eight.
Literally nothing. We've been waiting.
Hey, remember yesterday when we were hanging out?
Oh yeah, I know this guy.
I'm Shelley.
Nice to meet you. Jake. Nice to meet you.
All right, we're all here. I guess we'll get started. Thanks for coming to the Comics Are for Kids Again panel. We do ask if there'll be a Q&A at the end, and if you have any questions, please approach the mic right over there, and just so that they can get a recording of the question. And I think we'll just start by going down the line and introducing ourselves. I'm Chris Bolton. I'm the writer of Smash, Trial by Fire, which is a graphic novel published by Candlewick Press, and I'm very pleased to be here.
I'm Kyle Bolton. I'm the illustrator of Smash, Trial by Fire.
I'm Chris Giruso. I'm the creator of the G-Man graphic novel series.
I'm Shelley Paroline, and I work on Adventure Time and recently Midas Flesh, and I work a lot with my husband, Braden Lamb.
I'm Jake Parker, and I did the Missile Mouse graphic novel series with Scholastic, and the Antler Boy and Other Stories, which is a self-published book.
Cool. I'm Kevin Hanna. I'm the creator of the graphic novel The Clockwork Girl and the director of the movie of the same name. And my new book is Creature Academy, and it's with Red 5.
Great. So I thought the first question we should throw out, I wanted to ask our distinguished panelists here, why do you make comics for kids? Why don't we start over with Kevin and work our way here?
Cool. I think I just came up as a fan. I never really grew out of comics for kids. And then as I got older, there's a lot of really great comics for kids, and there's a lot of not so great comics for kids. And when I started making my own books, they actually started as extensions of stories for my own children. And because I have two daughters, a lot of the stories I was telling them were about adventurous, young, sometimes rebellious children. And that's where Clockwork Girl came from. And just grew from that, and the story just kept growing kind of organically. And I'm just passionate about stories for kids. It's weird. A lot of my favorite movies are children's movies. A lot of my favorite books and graphic novels are also children's books because there's like a beautiful simplicity to it. It's not all of us can relate to being architects or doctors or being married or being single, but we can all relate to being children and being in those new environments because we were all there at one point. So something about that just really appeals to me.
Good answer. I think for me, there's two sides to it. So one is everything that I really got excited about and got into as far as media that I consumed was when I was a kid. So 12, 13 is 11, 10, those ages I really got into Star Wars, I really got into comic books, I really got into all these things that I still like this day. And so I want to create the things that I liked when I was that age. The second part is I looked at the landscape of comics, and when I started making comics, I saw that there just wasn't a whole lot of stuff for kids. So I wanted to make stuff for those people.
Yeah, mine's very similar. I mean, I think it's just, I'm always finding that even as an adult, I'm still able to relate to cartoon characters and like kind of, and I'm never like saying like, oh, I don't see the motivation of Kermit the Frog, like in that instance or something. But, and I also, as an artist, I like the fun, whimsy, and the color involved in doing comics that are, you know, maybe geared towards kids or, and especially towards all ages.
I have almost nothing to add to this
I
because
know.
they've all said it so well already, and I feel the same way. I prefer stuff that's fun, and it's almost like it's not allowed to have fun in a mature comics anymore. It's more acceptable, and that's it.
Yeah, again, sorry, nothing new to add. All their answers are great. The only thing I would say is just from my own personal experience, I relate a lot better with kids, and whenever I have to draw something, it always takes more of a whimsical, more innocent look to it, and just kind of have an aversion to excessive violence and sometimes a tendency to kind of expose younger kids to things that they probably shouldn't be. So want to try and get the age range and expose them to things that, you know, aren't so questionable, I guess.
I think the only thing I would add is I'm really kind of bummed to have grown up, and I would like to have not done that if at all possible.
I like that too. Yeah.
So yeah, making kids comics is sort of like me writing a love letter to myself when I was a kid, and just kind of throwing out, you know, the toys that I would have liked to have played with. So I wanted to ask, what, if any, limitations you guys feel when you're making comics for younger readers?
Want me to start?
Sure.
Okay.
You're so brave.
Yeah, well, I just thought we were going.
Yeah, but he's gonna take all the good answers again, and we're gonna have nothing.
All right, last time, I promise. I really don't. I mean, I often will go back and maybe censor my stuff, but for the most part, I just try to tell stories that are true. And I mean, there's definitely things that could potentially be either inappropriate or go above kids' heads, but I think for the most part, if the intent is sincere and there, it's okay if it's a little complex. It's okay if it's a little dealing with some heavier issues. You know, from a very small age, kids understand love, they understand loss. Maybe not all the subtleties of it, but you know, some of my favorite movies are like The Iron Giant or My Neighbor Totoro, and those are dealing with some pretty heavy issues just from a kid's point of view. And so I try not to, other than just, you know, the occasional show my wife for kids, and if they're a little stressed out about something, I might maybe tweak a bit, but for the most part, it makes writing anger a little bit more cautious. Also.
Yeah. So I don't ever, story-wise, I don't ever think, oh, I need to dumb it down. The only thing that I watch out for is am I making this too violent? I don't really draw a whole lot of boobies, so that's not, I don't have to worry about that. But the fighting and the violence, I always try to check and make sure it's in a good spot. And my measuring stick is Star Wars. So if it happened in the original 3 Star Warses, then it's okay. That's what I decided.
So you'd be okay with like a severed hand?
Yeah.
A lightsaber, like one panel of that, that's okay.
But I wouldn't, I wouldn't glorify the severed hand. There wouldn't be a full page spread of a hand getting severed. But maybe, you know, and I do try to limit blood too. If a hand got severed, it wouldn't be bloody. It would be very clean and quick.
Lightsaber's good for that.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
cauterize it.
Yeah. I think it's only, I don't know, not much. Like, especially since I'm primarily just an artist, so and that tends to come from story. But like, as I've been developing my own stories, like I found that like other people, like editors and people who are in the business of comics, tend to try and put people in boxes, and I hate that. Like, it's just always depressing. Like to say like even starting from like the title, like to not have like, and a good example is like Dave Roman's astronaut. Now I only know it as Academy, but it was elementary to start with, and they were like, well, kids don't want to be like reading about when they were in elementary school, so let's put them in an academy. And it's like all those like weird things that you never think of, and to not just like being able to put something out there that someone else is thinking of stuff like for you. But
Yeah, similarly, I mean, there's the obvious limitations of you don't want to do anything inappropriate, but those are never things that I've wanted to do to begin with. Although I have been told that some of my stuff gets a little excessively violent, which was
Really?
a shock to me because there's nothing worse, there's nothing that even comes close to what you've seen in the Star Wars movies. It's just superheroes that are all super powered and vulnerable, punching each other. And nothing, gratuitous as far as that goes. It's mostly fun stuff.
As I said earlier, I just have an aversion to excessive violence, but action and violence in the story to move the story along, I feel is okay. It's when it crosses the line, but also, I kind of use, I think Raiders of the Lost Ark as basically my yardstick for am I pushing it, because face melting apart, people getting shot in the head, and yet, it's a classic, and people love that movie for years to come. It's still one of my favorites.
Yeah,
so.
it's really interesting. Where different people draw the line, like crossing the line, they consider it to be different things. So, it's not like I have people constantly coming down on me telling me my stuff's too violent, but just once in a while somebody will say, "Oh, I can't bring this to my classroom because he's punching a guy right here," and it's kind of surprising, but
Yeah,
so.
but what is he? Yeah, but I guess what is he punching him for? Is he just punching him to throw him into something?
It's always
or
a
to
good.
stop
It's
the bad
always
guy?
because he did something bad.
Yeah, then,
Yeah.
But it
I
sounds
think it's
like
pretty
we're on the
good.
same page as far as where we're drawing the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had interesting discussions about where to draw the line with a superhero punch. We had a debate about whether to have loose teeth flying in the first book, and then in the second book we had one about a trail of saliva, and we went without the trail of the teeth got in, the saliva.
I figured I was safe with teeth coming out. I was safe.
Kids lose teeth all the time without
Yeah.
getting punched.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in every cartoon I've ever grown up. Someone falls down, the teeth come out.
Yeah.
But I think kids like to be scared. I think there's like, whether it's like, Disney's Beauty and the Beast or something, there's always a part where kids like to watch like this. Should be a little bit of intensity.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it's interesting. Our new comic is a fantasy adventure, and so we've got a sword fight where a couple of people are killed, and we had to work out how do we show the impalement without really showing the impalement.
Yep.
And you end up sort of, we decided to go with the 30s Errol Flynn Robin Hood. If they did a sword angle, then we
Yeah.
could do that one. That was probably
It
pretty safe.
was a lot in the face and just
Yeah.
where the posture was. If somebody's like, you're pretty sure they got in the guy.
Yeah. So what are some of the strengths that you think are unique to kids' comics? Kyle, why don't we start with you? Give Kevin a round.
What are some of the strengths? Oh gosh, sorry. I think just imagination. There's no limit to what can happen, and kids just seem to be a little bit more free to take in any idea that you throw at them, and it has a little base in reality. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that, and then you're off and running. So yeah, that would be my answer. That is just unlimited imagination available.
Yeah, I agree. There's more permission to be fun. You can, use your imagination. Wear cool costumes, colorful. You're not embarrassed and feel like you have to make your costume all black so that you can make it seem serious and cool. And, a lot of adults get hung up on everything needs to be realistic.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of superhero comics now in the mainstream are embarrassed to have superheroes in them, so they do everything that they can to get all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
So I like that kids comics or just embrace the fun.
Exactly.
It seems like they're sort of turning spandex costumes into body armor now. That's kind of their
Hey, and if they want to do that, fine. But there's nothing wrong with it being yellow.
They'll do it, but it'll be a muddy, muddy yellow.
Yeah, everything's gray and black and brown.
There's so many things, but one thing I appreciate is how much kids are into the little details that you throw in that you think like, so it's kind of like that reverse attention span that you think kids have, and they tend to like come back at you and like notice like all these little details and like all these little like, well, when the character just sort of, I don't know, like even like kind of smirked, or they just notice all that stuff, and comics are so labor intensive that it's like it's so nice to know that like when you're writing for kids, like they are picking up like all that stuff.
Kids notice that more than
Rereading,
adults
yeah.
have worse attention spans
Yeah.
than kids.
Yeah, and like having like, I'm sure you have a million of your comics brought to you and they're like, torn, and it's just
Yeah.
like they want you to sign it. It's just
They'll
like
read
this
stuff
is-
over and over.
Yeah.
really
Yeah, it's
love-
only from kids that
Yeah.
you want to get a really demolished
Yeah,
cover.
exactly.
On it. For anybody else, you'd think that was a little disrespectful. But
Yeah,
for
yeah,
kids,
yeah.
you know, this thing was so well loved
Yeah.
and slept with and kept in the toy box. It's
Right,
perfect.
right, yeah.
I just had a kid come up to my table and he said, "Would you sign my Missile Mouse book?" And it was really loved. And so I went and I opened it to sign the title page, and the title page was completely ripped out. I'm like, oh, okay, well, sign it right here. But I guess one of the strengths I would think is there's a lot of leeway just for what a character is. I think with adult comics or comics that skew up, the main character has to be a human. And my book's Missile Mouse, and it was just, I like mice, and I thought it'd be great for a protagonist. And I think it's interesting. You see Guardians of the Galaxy coming out now, and everyone's raving about, oh my gosh, this Rocket Raccoon is so cool. I'm like, I've been doing rodents and furry animals for years.
I think Missile Mouse could take Rocket Raccoon.
Thank you.
I think I'd like to
you
see
could
that
too.
battle. Actually.
Crossover.
Yeah, I think one of the exciting things about making comics for kids, just like you're saying, nobody loves a story or a comic book the way a child does. And the stories that meant a lot to me as a child, nothing today, no matter how good it is, will ever come close to the stuff that I read when I was in 4th, 5th, 6th grade.
Yeah.
And those things still come to mind, and they still make an impression on me.
Yeah. So do you feel like kids' comics are gaining any respect in the industry right now? And when I say industry, I actually kind of want to split that in two, because there's a comic industry, and then I think of the book industry as being almost completely separate.
That's a good question. We were actually talking, I drove up to the show with Kazu Kibuishi,
Oh, nice.
who does Amulet. And we were talking a little bit about that, and we were saying, even though comic shops all have a section that's all ages, they're usually not very well curated. And any mom in her right mind wouldn't go into a comic shop to get books for her kids. So there's still this big divide between the two worlds,
Yeah.
even though there's people trying really hard to bring them together. So I think in the book publishing world, yes, kids' comics are getting a lot of traction and gaining a lot of credibility, winning awards, things like that. I don't know so much in the direct market. I think it's a little harder for you to find success in the direct market with a kid's book.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe better than it was 10 years ago.
Okay.
But not as nice as it was any time before the 80s when kids were the primary audience
Right.
of comics.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my first book was through HarperCollins, which was really great for bookstores, and then not so much for conventions and for stores. And that sort of
You found that too, huh?
thing. Yeah, yeah.
What about you guys?
I feel like Adventure Time really there's definite crossover. We always have just so many the parent and the child are just as into it, and I love seeing that. Just to two generations that enjoy the very same comic, and it is hard though, because I do see the distinction between comics, like kids comics and all ages comics, and I don't know if we want to get into that because I don't even know
No, I do.
exactly. Yeah, but I think that's where it really is difficult, on shelves and in the minds of publishers? Where do they put this? Like, and actually, like, where does it exist in the comic store? Because there's always a kids section, and where do you find the all ages stuff? And it could be right next to something, you know, that everyone would like recommend. Like, someone goes into a comic store and everyone would recommend Saga, and I'd be like, I don't want like a kid to like grab that like at all. There's like nothing on it that would say like don't, you know, and there shouldn't be like a censorship thing, but you know, something that's totally appropriate will be right next to it every Wednesday, you know, or something like so. And you know, and those are things that I love, and I'm so glad that they're doing those types of comics. But you know, they're for me as an adult.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting you bring up Adventure Time, because that is a book that's doing really well, but it's also a really hit animated show.
Right.
You know, and I think about that. I think about, okay, the books that are doing really well in the direct market are all books that either have a blockbuster film attached to it, a blockbuster TV show. Are there blockbuster TV shows? What do you call it? A hit TV show?
Popular?
A popular TV show.
Kids line up around the block to watch that TV.
This con has so many Jakes and Finns walking around.
Yeah.
It should really be an Adventure Time.
So if you want a book to do really well in the direct market, just go make a hit TV show or a blockbuster film first. And,
That sounds pretty easy.
yeah,
I'm gonna write that down.
write that down.
Make, hit,
But I think it's
Show.
smart that Adventure Time and the other cartoon shows are making comics an outlet. And the reason I think that they're doing that now is there's probably a lot more openness to this market.
Yeah,
So
and I think it's always been true, like, because, like, some of my favorites as a kid were, or that my go-tos were, like, Disney and that sort of thing. It was that, like, I watch it on television, I'll probably like the book, but, you know, luckily, like, the books are different, they're made differently. It's not just, like, I feel like we went through, like, an era of just, like, screen grabs and then sort of, like, putting,
Yeah.
you know, the text on it, and I think we're back to good comics, like, of licensed things,
Yeah.
like, again, but,
Yeah.
Oh, I think that makes a huge difference. You know, for a long time, it was just like the licensing arm of the big company,
yeah.
and they're cranking out comics the same way they would T-shirts. But like
Right.
with like Adventure Time, some really great books coming out. So if you're a fan of the show, you'll actually get more out of
Yeah.
the experience by going and getting a really good book.
yeah, and I will say my kids love the Adventure Time comics. Like love them more than the cartoon. I think. We don't let them watch too much TV,
Yeah,
so that's
that's
probably why they
another
love them more.
That's right. Yeah.
So that brings up, Shelley, you bring up an interesting question. What were some of your favorite comics as a kid? You mentioned Disney comics.
Yes, like
Um,
Scrooge and that sort of thing. But like, don't let me start.
Okay, you don't have to start.
No.
I want to mention that
I wanna, like,
Don
I wanna
Rosa's
think.
table is right across from ours, and his line has not shrunk
Yeah.
since we opened, and that just warms my heart. I'm just like, he's so amazing, and thank God there's this big enough, consistent group that recognizes how great that is.
That's
I wish
cool.
Carl Barks were alive to be
Just
here.
out of curiosity, how many of them are kids?
Hardly any. Hardly any.
There's some teenagers. I haven't seen a lot of really young kids. So yeah, your favorite comics as a kid. How about you, Jake?
I'll answer.
Okay.
I'll take that one. So my comic evolution started with Garfield. I loved Garfield. And then I discovered Calvin and Hobbes. And every Christmas and birthday, I would get a Calvin Hobbes book. Because I'm December and May, so it was perfectly timed.
Oh yeah.
So I would get the collection in May, and then at Christmas there would usually be like the collection that had the color. You know, the one was black and white and one had color, you know?
So you get the regular book and the Treasury?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Because it had color.
Yeah, yeah.
And they usually had an extra story in the front
Oh yeah, that's right.
that I could not go without. So there's that. And then my mom is a seamstress. She would go to the materials store, and one day she came home and said, "Hey, there's a comic book store next to the sewing store." And I said, "Oh, when are you going to the sewing store again?" And I walked into a comic shop when I was 12 for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's more than just Batman and Superman. There's X-Men, there's all this stuff. So then I started getting into more of the mainstream stuff, and that comic shop also had a lot of anime or manga in it, and I started getting into that as well.
Nice.
So.
Am I left? Okay. Yeah, for me, it was, as a lot of us, it was Ninja Turtles and ElfQuest and Transformers. Then as I was a little bit older, Bone was a real big one for me, where I thought, Bone was really sophisticated. It was black and white, which was crazy. When I was getting Ninja Turtles, I guess it was originally black and white, but I was getting the nice color reprints or the Archie versions of it. And stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember that one kind of blowing my mind. I mean, like, I can do this. Still can't do that. But.
Yeah, honestly, not to put anyone on the spot, but is there anyone here who's not just in love with Bone? Like, I mean, wasn't that just like the most, wasn't that?
We all
I
think
can
it's
speak
great,
for
yes.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that was the first time that I saw, it was the black and white independent comic at the time, and I thought, you could make comics for kids. You could make a comic feel like a cartoon series and a movie and a great comic in its own right. You could include all of those
Yeah.
influences and give it a real epic feel.
Yeah.
And, I mean, adults would love it as much as kids. That was a big eye-opener. Chris, how about you?
I grew up scouring the newspaper comic strips, and I read everything on that page every day. Really fell in love with Peanuts, and I would, just routinely check out from the library, the school library, all the Peanuts collections, and just read them over and over and over all through elementary school. And but I liked the superhero cartoons that were on TV all the time, and Transformers, G.I. Joe, all the stuff that these guys already mentioned. And then I started following my brother in his quest to find Mad magazines. I used to read his Mad magazines over his shoulder. He wouldn't let me touch them. But so he'd always, inevitably we wound up finding comic book shops that had back issues of Mad magazine. And then I saw like just all these superhero comics, and they were better than the
Age range.
Yeah.
We were all probably passing each other in the comics.
Not making eye contact.
not unless you're from upstate New York.
Not, okay, in that case, not.
There was something whimsical about that, and but not much else where I'm like, proud that I liked it or something. Oh well,
Well, when you get older, you get
Yeah,
to say like, oh, I was a silly kid. We should probably turn it over to the floor if any of you have any questions. You just have to stand at the mic there. Looks like we have one.
Why do you like to make kids comics and why?
Okay. Why do we like to make kids comics? Kyle, you want to?
I guess it would just go back to my earlier answer that there's a lot of freedom in making comic books for kids, and there's a lot more imagination that you can tap into, and they're a lot more free to go to places that you're willing to take them.
Yeah, they're way more fun to read, and they're way more fun to.
More people drawing, especially more girls drawing. So more like I'm totally always okay with kids like tracing out of a book and and trying to develop their own comics and starting really early doing that. So I like to see more people
like 1980s horror action, okay, well then this is for you. We're just like, yep, here's my book, you will like it.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I like that a lot of my friends now kind of look at me with a different level of respect because now they have kids that are old enough to read my books and they like them. And they never really give them a second thought before because none of my friends were into comics growing up, and now they're like, oh wow, he's really, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I always like when, I've heard from some people who have bought Smash for their kids, and they were, sort of impressed, and they said nice things, and then they gave it to the kid as a gift, and the kid vanished, and they went looking, and they had to like take the book away to get them to come to Christmas dinner because they disappeared. They get so absorbed into Amulet and Bone and all those great series. Yes.
Hi, so I'm a children's bookseller in the Bay Area, and I'm always trying to get their kids when they don't really take them seriously.
The parent doesn't read comics, basically.
Yeah, or they don't read comics.
There's a lot of statistics and studies now, and librarians and teachers that are aware now that reading comics is still reading. And statistically, kids that read comics read at higher reading levels than their peers that don't read comics. So homework becomes a lot easier for kids that read comics.
Yeah.
We need to work on a really good slogan now. Like,
Yeah, we
a
do.
good campaign.
Comics
I think
make
that's
kids
what she
smarter.
needs. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
there
then
it
also
is.
the
It's
comic
true.
book heroes and the themes that they deal with are ancient. And for a parent to, if you want to just like touch upon a little bit of history, I mean, Superman, all of the superheroes come from some Greek god, some mythology, and usually their reasons for being superheroes are also derived in a way from that mythology. So they're getting, deep history, and it, opens kids' eyes up to things, not just comic books, but history and other things. So
My favorite tact is try to get the parent hooked on comics. So give the parent comics they will like, and then naturally they'll want to share it with their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is maybe there has to be some education, I guess, on their part, like saying that the statistics, I guess, as far as that. But when kids are reading comics, they're not just reading words; they're also interpreting pictures and storytelling through visual medium, and that right there is. Through
Thanks.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that the comic book shop doesn't seem to be the primary place for you to market your wares, as it were, just because it seems to be not as children family friendly a place as it used to be. So I know some of you are hooked up with Scholastic. Congratulations.
Telling mom what they want, but she's the ultimate person that decides what gets bought or what doesn't. I guess dads too, but I mean, typically I think it's the mom, right? So where do moms shop? They may go to a bookstore, but I can't tell you the last time my wife went to a bookstore. She's always on Amazon. And she goes on Amazon, she reads reviews, and she reads what, other customers bought this. So I think if you can get on that or be where, I guess, Amazon, the shopping is happening, a lot of books are also bought at the school book fairs. as well. So you got to find where people are actually going. And the people that go to comic shops, for the most part, are not the people buying comics for kids.
Yeah, I mean, and I try to go to schools where I can. I teach a class, I do stuff like that. Actually going to a bookstore and asking if they want a signing or a reading or any of those things.
Look into it. So that may be one way.
Mine's like really time consuming, but I organize a independent comic show in Massachusetts called MICE, the Massachusetts Independent Comics Expo, and so.
Hey.
Yep. And we just put a lot of effort into having workshops all day long that kids can either start drawing, start writing, do life drawing, that sort of thing, and also like meet creators so they can meet people that are doing the comics that they read. But it's very small scale in comparison to this, which I find very overwhelming and not always family friendly because there's like so many people and you don't know what to do with your kids or something. But this show in particular is quite good. But I mean, wow.
Do you need a mascot for your show?
Oh, like a mouse? Maybe?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I gotta go.
Give it like an alliterative kind of a name, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
like a
Workshopping here.
Missile
missile mice.
Missile mice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question is, how do comic books that are like written for people that are older, do they have any influence on like what stories you like to make, like what you kind of want to write, but like for kids?
Yeah.
Definitely. For
Yeah.
me, I love Hellboy, and it's typically not for younger audiences. Not that there's anything overtly bad in Hellboy, but I love the weird little stories that Mike Mignola does, and I've definitely applied a lot of what he does to my own comics.
Yeah, I feel the same way about The Savage Dragon is a book I really enjoy. And inappropriateness, so stay away from that till you're maybe 15.
And I'm a big Lock and Key fan, which has nothing to do with superhero. Well, sort of. I mean, there's a small kid, and he kind of has sort of a power, but not very.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Good question.
It's frustrating, you go into the comics shop and about the only thing you know for sure is safe for kids, like you were saying, Shelley, is the movie tie-ins like Disney princesses or My Little Pony. And it's really hard to know, there's got to be others, to find you. You're on the other end of it going, I'm producing all this stuff and nobody's buying it. And I'm over here going, I want to buy this stuff and I can't find it.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you had any suggestions other than just slogging through the reviews on Amazon.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
bit overt, but I always try to make sure I put a big all ages across it. And because I have kids myself, as an artist, I don't want to do that. But as a parent, I know it's necessary.
So you want suggestions like for?
I would say
Like
buy
for
all of our
books
books
Yes.
this weekend at the show. That's
To be honest,
step one.
that's what we ended up doing last year. Is I have she was 6-year-old, my stepdaughter. We went to a similar panel, about getting your kids to read through comics. And last year she was having an awful time reading, and thanks to reading comics, she's now at grade level,
That's amazing.
Okay.
Yay.
which is awesome.
That, that just,
But
it
what
just
we-
reinforces my claim that comics make kids.
Yeah, but it was just, all we could do is the 5 panelists, we said, okay, this person's known for Baby Mouse, this person knows for this person knows for that. And so we just bought a sampling of each of those 5 things.
That's great.
But
She likes mice.
yeah,
Hold on to your seat, because there's a missile mouse.
yes.
I did think of a bunch of suggestions that were like, I thought great for like, this is what I would want to read when I was like a young girl. And like, so like I could tell you those because there weren't many when I was young, but there's so many like main characters who are girls. But like some that you might not know of are like the Secret Science Alliance, and that's by Eleanor Davis, and it is wild. It is like, the illustrations sometimes can be like Chris Ware, but for kids, and like they're in school, but they're like, it's kind of ragtag, and they're building things, so it's like mini engineers. I also really like the Hilda series, which is from like a UK publisher, but they have found their way over here, and it's called like Hilda and the Midnight Giant.
That's a cool
And,
book.
And there's a new one out, Hilda and the Black Hound, and the Hilda and the Bird Parade, and she's just a super curious girl who's like finding all these magical things like in her backyard basically, which everybody loves to do, or I hope they still do. And I also really like Hereville, and that's by Barry, is it Deutsch?
Yeah.
Barry Deutsch, who's kind of localish, and it's also how Margaret got her sword. And probably the best, like, I'm stealing this line from someone, but like a mother-daughter like relationship story that I've ever read. So
Okay.
those would be mine. I can pass it
Yeah,
along to you.
and just one last comment is, those are all excellent suggestions, and I thank you for them, but it's just too bad there is, for movies, there's Siskel and Ebert, or,
Yeah,
well, they're
I
not
see
around
what you
anymore, but
mean.
there's similar ones.
But
But
there's
there
word
really
of
isn't
mouth,
anything
too,
like that
You might want to
for
also try, if
comics.
you have a favorite bookstore or one of the libraries you go to, I would go directly to the bookstore owner or the librarians and say, what exactly is moving around here? What are the majority of kids
librarians are
reading?
an excellent resource as
Yeah,
far as
and-
books go, but as far as comics, a lot of time, I know at my local King County branch, the librarians there, they know about the kids' books, but, oh yeah, the comics are over there.
Right.
Well, is this one, well, I don't know, they're over there, I don't really know anything about them.
Well, there are a lot of
yeah, there's a lot of blogs.
yeah,
So-
and there are a lot of kids bookstores, like just for kids, are proliferating a lot more now. I know
Okay.
Mockingbird
And do
Books
those
in
carry
Seattle-
comics as well?
Yeah,
Yeah, they do.
They carry a lot of graphic
Okay.
novels. I don't know about the the monthly comics as much, but you could certainly talk to them and even suggest it. If they
Yeah.
knew there was an audience for that, they might
Right.
start picking those up.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you. I think we have time for one more question. Sorry.
I'm used to it. I'm actually going to be doing a class for teaching kids how to draw comics, and I was wondering if you had any suggestions on lessons or things that I should have them do. 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, if you want an age range.
There's a panel tomorrow called Comics Are Great, right? And that's all about getting kids involved with comics. And
I'm actually going to that one as
Okay.
well, so looking forward to that.
ask them.
Yeah, I think you'll get all your answers
More
there.
than that. Oh man, like there's some like get really bad jokes and like use those jokes as the script for the comic. Like what 2 peanuts walked down the street and one was assaulted. That's like it's a narrative, and they I don't know, they like that. Jam comics pass it around, like each person starts like one panel and then it goes to the next person, and it's a good like improv exercise too.
I teach a class. Actually, I missed my class this morning, but my wife's up for me at school. But I try to because the kids are very self-conscious about what the work around them is doing, so I try to time everything. So if I give them 5 minutes or 10 minutes to do something, 5 minutes a panel, we're just going to go, or whatever, or do something ridiculous. Okay, we're doing a speed paint, and it's a hot dog getting a suntan. Just say you've got 5 minutes, then they lose a lot of they're more concerned with hitting the time limit and how much they can do in that time, as opposed to being self-conscious and looking around what other people are doing.
I had an art teacher who would scribble on the board, and then he'd say, okay, do something with that. And he'd ask all of us just to scribble, and he'd make sure that everybody did it, and goes, now make a picture out of that. And it's just getting you to look at that. And most of the time people make a face out of any lines, but people, I remember, would come up with whole villages and trees and things, and it's just, getting them to just kind of forget about everything else, just focus on what's here and have some fun with it. That's what I would do.
We did something recently at Laurelhurst where I gave Kyle the instructions to draw the panel, the way I would in the script, and then we got suggestions from the kids for dialogue to put in the word balloon and had them vote for their 3 favorites, and they were really excited about that. The thing you have to watch out for is the kids don't censor themselves quite as much as adults. So their suggestions were all things we never would, like, I'm going to kill you, robbers. And we're like, we would not ever have him say, I'm going to kill you. So we kind of had to, rewrite a little bit for them. But they were really engaged by it. So that might be something fun to try.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think that wraps it up. So
Hey,
thank you guys.
if anybody here would like a free copy of G-Man comic book, come up and get them, and I will sign them for you. Or I'll come sit in the front chair so that I'm not taking up the space up here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Good job. Oh, excellent.
Oh, here, Bill.
Awesome.
We do.
We do, definitely.
That's the answer.
All right. Thanks so much.
Perfect.
Hi there.
Can I write it down? Or yeah.
Yeah. What's that? Hey, I'm Kyle. I don't have a card on me, but we have a booth.
Of someone who's actually here.
Do you have a Smash card? Oh, goody. He's got one on him.
And our booth is L14.
Let me give you my card too.
Thanks, man.
All right,
Yeah,
fine.
Do you have to tear those off, I imagine?
Shoot, I left them all in my
I want to, should have said something before.
The path to building superintelligence requires us to unlock the most fundamental secrets of the universe.
Intelligent machines will soon allow us to conquer our most intractable challenges.
To develop new methods for the early detection of cancer.
To build a better future for all of us.
Simply put, to save lives.
Once online, its analytical power will be greater than the collective intelligence of every person born in the history of the world.
Professor?
What did you do?
independence from technology, Rift.
They hit AI labs all over the country.
We're determined to stop any attempt at what you call transcendence.
We're looking at 5 weeks before his system shuts down.
When I'm gone, keep moving forward.
I won't let you go. We can upload his consciousness. We can save him.
Not like this. If we missed anything, how will you know who you're dealing with? Oh my God.
It's like my mind has been set free. I'm gonna need to expand. I need more power. Get me online.
This is not well. Shut it down.
Shut it down! It's him!
Where are you going?
Everywhere.
Your friends, they don't know the danger.
If she connects to the internet, the first thing it'll do is copy itself. And then there is no taking it down. The real will die.
Whatever it is, it's building an army out there.
What is this?
It's evolution.
This isn't evolution. It's an abomination.
What the hell's happening?
I'm able to fix them.
This has gone too far, Will. Stop it!
I don't understand. This is the future.
This is not our future. You're not here with me.
You've changed. Have you fallen out of love with me?
No.
Have you?
If we don't stop him, it will be the end of mankind as we know it.
You want to give me a microphone?
No.
Hello. Oh, but it's green. Well, our real names are, I'm Joy, and this is my sister Jessica. And we, for a living, build costumes, and we play with makeup. That's what we do. We love doing it. So our panel today, we were wanting to teach those of you out there who don't know how to do basic prosthetic work, we wanted to show some basic prosthetic work today. And then we also wanted to talk to you guys just about some basic skincare for your makeup, and also about steps for applying your makeup, brush work, all that kind of stuff. And we have a whole lot we really want to cover in a very short amount of time. So I think really, how should we keep going with all of this?
Well, you can look at me and you can see that I'm wearing several different types of prosthetics. That's if you get close enough to me for it. I have a foam application, which is a very lovely piece, and you may come up later with my permission for it and pet it because it's really soft.
Very soft, actually.
And then this piece right here, the rich piece, the latex piece. It is a standard latex piece that you could say go to a costume store. It's called an alien nose piece, ironically. Alien noses? Never mind. Oh, tough crowd, tough crowd. So I get to demonstrate, obviously, in my attire, in my facial gear, that I have two different pieces on. But there's silicone pieces. There is, what's that middle blend? No, that would be the foam combination, yeah.
Foam rubber piece.
Real rubber pieces, silicone ones, they won't budge, yeah.
Well, I think we were sort of hoping to have tables so we could pair you guys up and hand you some spirit gum and some latex pieces and you could torture each other for an hour. But since we don't have that, what we'd actually like to do is if there's anyone who would be interested in being a Klingon volunteer for a moment. So take anyone.
Oh, no, let me finish.
Oh, there's someone in the car back with their hand raised.
Let me finish.
I know. Come here, darling.
Do I get to pick one too?
Possibly. Oh, your parents with you? Your sister over the age of 18?
Yeah.
Oh, good. We have permission to torture him. I better someone ask that ahead of time. All right. Now, we're going to just jump into this. Have a seat. Have you ever had any latex appliances, prosthetics, or anything else ever applied to your beautiful face? No. No! Oh, fresh victim, I love it. But you want them, right?
Right? Sure.
Sure! Now, the deal with dealing with prosthetic pieces is that because they are made out of, they can be made out of liquid latex, they can be made out of silicone, they can be made out of resin. If you have skin allergies, it is very important that you test any chemical you're putting on your face, anything you think, you test it. You want to test it just on a patch of your skin before you apply anything. We have people who come to us and say, I got this burning feeling on my face when I put on my prosthetic. We're like, take it off right now. You need to clean your face. You're having an allergy. You don't need to use that.
And that may not necessarily be the prosthetic. It could be, in fact, the prosthetic glue you're using to attach it.
Yeah, you can see me down here. But most